Welcome to the We Hack Purple podcast, where each episode we meet someone new from the information security industry. And in season 3, we have been talking exclusively about how to secure software and all the different topics around that. I'm Tanya Janka, your host. This episode is sponsored by SemGrep, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about SemGrep partway through the episode. But for now, you're probably like, Tanya, come on, tell us who your guest is. My guest today is Jason Haddix. Welcome, Jason.
Hey everybody, nice to be on, Tanya. Thank you so much.
I'm really happy to have you here. So I have met Jason many times over my career, and when I asked him to be on the podcast, he said yes. But for people that don't know you and don't follow all your stuff like I do, could you tell them about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Jason Haddix. I am currently the CISO at BuddoBot, my own red teaming company, so red teaming as a service. Basically, I've been in offensive security for about 20 years now. Maybe 18, depending on when you count, if you count my miscreant youth. So I've been doing offensive security research. I've been on many red teams, penetration testing teams, mobile hacking teams, AppSec teams, security engineering teams, you name it. I've done it in the industry. I do a lot of conferences speaking about reconnaissance and web application hacking. I've been a contributor to many OWASP top 10 projects. I've just been around a long time, pretty old. Been in the offensive security scene for the last 5 years. Though I've been switching over to a little bit of leadership. I try to keep half and half, like a CISO hacker vibe, really. I was the CISO at Ubisoft in my last position, which is a video game company. So they make Assassin's Creed, Just Dance, and all of the Rainbow Six games and stuff like that. So yeah.
Nice. Okay, so listeners, viewers, I invited Jason on and I didn't know what we wanted to talk about. And then we just started chatting and he started talking about using AI. And I was like, oh, I think you might have just picked the topic for our episode. Lately, you said you've been using AI for defense and for offense. How's that work? Like, first of all, what the heck is AI? Just briefly for someone who's living under a rock.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we were discussing and just, chatting and riffing on, kind of the happenings, right? And so you can't really talk about anything without talking about AI, but specifically these days, everybody's exposure to AI is large language models, right? Like ChatGPT and models like it, which, can execute on text and data very, very well, and can solve a lot of problems that we've had for a long time, aggregating data, coming to conclusions about, context of data and stuff like that. So we got to talking, and yeah, it's definitely an area of interest I've been spending a lot of hours on in my free time. So I work with some people just in a Discord channel, and we are just dropping links and discussing like threat models and how it's going to disrupt the security industry and how it's going to disrupt humanity in general. When people are using these models. So I've been doing a ton of research on the intersection of AI and security, mostly with my friend Daniel Miessler, who you know. We do that a lot right now. So yeah. So mostly everybody's exposure is, AI chatbots right now, ChatGPT. That's what everybody is kind of using right now, either through the API or OpenAI's front end. But there's many other models out there that exist. And I think that the future is going to utilize these technologies very much like we adopted mobile or web, and so you'll see every API in the future will have an LLM component on the back end aggregating data or making conclusions about a data set that a company is going to own. And so what that does is it basically makes this new attack surface for attackers. And I thought we could come on today and discuss kind of resources and ideas around that, and then how security is going to utilize AI and things like that.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
People constantly are asking me about ChatGPT and if I use it for work, and lots of questions. And I have not used it for work so far, except for to help me write my sleep blog, where I was like, what supplements should people take for better sleep? Because I wanted to I thought I knew them all, but I just wanted to check. And I was like, yep, got those. Okay,
Yep.
we're good. But it's nice to just be able to ask questions and get answers. But we could probably do a lot more with it, couldn't we, Jason?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the most powerful things about about LLMs specifically is the fact that they can train on massive data sets, and once you're done with training, and you can supplement them live too with new data, depending on how you architect the solution. They can aggregate and execute on that information pretty quickly, right? So in the case of security and defense, right, the ability to instantly parse all of your logs, instantly grab context from what your attack surface looks like, instantly grab system and patch information, instantly grab process information from a live running host, and correlate these things together using a large language model or using another model of some sort. Those types of things will change security tooling. So you and I were at RSA this year, and several people were talking about this. And I did a blog about this. Like, a lot of people are talking about how like this will replace tier one SOC. And one of the big demos was, I can't remember which vendor, but whatever, it doesn't matter. They had this dramatized demo of this robot talking to, a SOC analyst tier two. And the robot voice was, SOC analyst tier one. And they're like, hey, I see something fishy going on in this, area of the network, and then SOC analyst tier two is talking to the robot and saying, oh, well, like isolate the host and tell me about like the context. And, we're not quite there yet. That was a very dramatized version of what happened, but bringing AI into security tooling and the fact that it can grok all of this context all at once really quickly will change a lot of what we're doing in security and in technology in general. So
I feel like maybe it could replace some of the jobs that are super boring.
yes. I mean, it sucks for people who have those jobs, right? Like, some people argue that SOC tier one is a rite of passage, right? And some people argue that that's a also like a stepping stone job, and if that disappears, where is the stepping stone, right?
Yeah.
So I think that utilizing these tools and whatever incarnation they take,
Mm.
um, at least being up to date is your superpower, right? As a as a person, right? Like, understanding that like at some point, your sim is going to have an interface with natural language, right? And boy, has this already happened. I'm in a couple discords right now where defenders are able to do amazing things with large language models just with chat gpt right now. They're able to look at or they're able to ask natural language questions to build Splunk queries, to build sim queries, basically. They're able to use natural language, just like you and me talking, to build Yara rules, to build other types of defensive things, or threat detection things and threat detection rules. And so they're already using it for this kind of stuff. And it right now it's not 100% great because the cutoff date and it hasn't been trained on security specific data. But this is our first pass. I mean, this thing just launched in January. So yeah, I mean, I was going through RSA, I was walking up and down the rows, and I was just looking at companies and being like, okay, that's going to change dramatically. That's going to change dramatically with the implementation of LLMs and them training on their own data sets, and it'll be a brave new world. Yeah.
I am really looking forward to some of the changes. Like, so when Microsoft Copilot came out, it was trained on all the open source projects, some of which are intentionally vulnerable, most of
Hmm.
which have never had a pen test or
Yeah.
like a stack analysis done on them or anything like that. And then the examples it was giving were like, oh my gosh, no, please
Yep.
don't show people that.
Yeah.
Um, but then they came out with Security Copilot, which I have not tried yet, but I've heard good things from people
Hmm.
who work at Microsoft.
Yeah.
Um, and then SemGrep, our sponsor, and a whole bunch of other
Yeah.
really cool companies have come out with like, and this is how we're going to use AI to make things more secure. And I'm looking forward to playing with them. But what do you have any examples of things that you think maybe could be cool that we're going to do or that you saw at RSA and beyond?
So I saw a lot of vendors talking about it but hadn't implemented it yet. Right? I think Microsoft has, a very fresh foot forward with Copilot. I think, and
Yeah.
also SemGrep announced that they have some stuff working right now too, which is great. So yeah, I mean, there are some people who are pioneers in the space. It's still very early. Most people talked about wanting to do it, but what it takes a little time to is train the data set, the specific data set. And what you find is that most companies talk a big game about their data, but actually don't have a data lake or don't have, all of their data in one place, or don't even know, like how to collate all of that stuff together. So, many people will play catch up for the next year, just aggregating their data, and then getting it into a form to ingest with their own bots or their own models. But yeah, I mean, I saw some really interesting stuff. One of the ones I thought was most impactful and is a very easy way to illustrate the impact of the technology is in the DLP space, right? Kind of this technology that was, I mean, I don't want to say it was totally failing, but pretty failing. Like people like, kind of go, oh, DLP, like, controlling, outbound document classification levels, like, data loss prevention is what we're talking about here, and leaking that kind of stuff. It doesn't really work, right? Like many of the products that sell you this don't work super well. And, or at least I've never experienced one that's worked super well. And in DLP, new solutions are coming out that are inline, so you don't have to have an agent that can analyze document, both full text and metadata with an LLM to give you complete context of whether a document should be leaving the network. It can scan the whole document instantly, yeah, and basically tell you, hey, based on the context of this document, it meets classification criteria 3, and it shouldn't be leaving our corporate network, and we've stopped it. And so that's a whole different ballgame for, something that was kind of a failing technology to now be buoyed by this new AI LLM model.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
I used to do counterterrorism top secret work, and I'd have to massage huge amounts of data. So I have to say I feel for, so evidence doesn't come in a nice, neat package. Right? And so it'll be in all these different whatever, and I'd have to like make it so it would actually work, but not like accidentally erase something or change evidence, right? And
Mhm.
so I feel for all these companies that are suddenly going to start doing this that have never done it
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be really interesting. I mean, so I'm looking into how our industry, security, utilizes AI, but then I'm really interested in how business, grows in the next couple of years and utilizes AI, and then attacking them as well. What are the attacks, as as security practitioners we need to understand, and then how do we defend against them? And it's such the Wild West right now. There's not a lot of documentation, very few projects, and so it feels really interesting to be a part of all of this, right? Like to be on the cutting edge. And so I've aligned myself kind of with the AI village at DEFCON. So DEFCON has several villages like the Lockpick Village and social engineering. I'm working with the AI village to basically like make sure it's a great event, and we're doing some cool stuff there. And it's really fun. So yeah, I can't say enough about it. But the other part, other than kind of how security is disrupted by AI, is AI itself and how we attack it. Really interested in that stuff.
Um, okay, so some of the things that we were talking about before, I think you were using the AI to create CTF challenges.
Oh yeah, absolutely. A ton of people are doing this actually. So, it's trained on all of the internet data, and it can easily build very quick Flask applications for web application security vulnerabilities, because it has an extensive open source Python training set. Um, it knows how to, it has trained on most of the vulnerable code documentation that existed up into 2021, which is most web application vulnerabilities and most standard buffer overflows and stuff like that. So it can build vulnerable code really quickly. It can't build intricate connected CTF challenges like the kind you see at a high quality CTF. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're just doing a demo and you want to illustrate server-side template injection or SSRF or or SQL injection, it can build that in a couple seconds for you. Yeah.
So, like for instance, if like someone was writing a book, like the sequel to her first book, and she needed to
Mhm.
have insecure code samples so she could show people how to make it better.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it's really good for that. Yeah. The other thing I've been doing in my free time is I built a agent-based ChatGPT bot that basically I dump in every article I can find about a data breach. And so these are press articles basically, and maybe disclosure documents like a PDF. And I
Mhm.
dump them all into a folder, or I use a scraper to grab them from a source.
Mhm.
And then the bot itself is basically trained on how to build the MITRE attack map for me. So it'll take the threat actor, it'll take the initial access and all of the columns that are in the MITRE attack and break down the attacker with the available information and what they did, and build like a report for me based on that threat actor, and it will give me all the information. So when I'm doing a red team campaign and I go to one of my customers and they're in a certain industry, like I take some of the breaches, tangentially related to them. And I'm like, okay, here's the kind of stuff that's happening in your industry. Here's where we think that we might have success, what we might do, et cetera, et cetera. So influencing attack operations, basically.
That is so cool. What about testing the models? Like, could you red team a model?
Yeah, you absolutely can. So red teaming in our world means something completely different than red teaming in the machine learning and AI world. So that's the first thing that I had like a really hard time wrapping my head around. So in our world, red teaming is like attacking and hacking and breaking in, and that's what we know to be, kind of the service that is red teaming, or if you have a red team at your company. A lot of times it's network hacking or web hacking or mobile hacking or something like that. With AI and ML, red teaming, that term means trying to get the model to do things it's not supposed to do, both like ethically and to show bias and things like this. And so, we're going to run an AI red teaming event at the AI Village where we're going to have people come in and out. And the event basically looks like this. You stand in line for a little bit, or you get on our menu app, and you come into one of our PCs, and it has a whole bunch of models. They're obfuscated, and you will attempt to get them to do things they're not intended to do. So ChatGPT is never supposed to tell you how to do certain illicit things. I'm not going to name them, right? But clever people using natural language have tricked the bot into doing those things, and you don't ever want the bot to do those things as the model creator. And so we're going to have people coming in and out of the village trying to trick the bot to do illicit things, so that we can build training data. And that's a red team exercise in the ML world. So it's not actually hacking. It's people using
It's
natural
attacking,
language.
though.
It is attacking. Yeah, it is a form of attacking, but it's very different for offensive security people to grok that this means something different. So yeah, so that's the idea of red teaming an AI. And right now in the industry, there are companies that do this through kind of like mechanical Turk methods. Like they have specialists who are individuals, and you get paid like $4 an hour or something like that to, just train the AI. It's adversarial, in nature,
Mhm.
and that exists. And then there's events like the one we're going to do. But yeah, you have to work on doing this in order to train the model to be safe, basically. Yeah.
We had a We Hack Purple stream last month with Joe Gray, who
Mhm.
does OSINT and social engineering, and it took him less than 5 minutes to get ChatGPT to be doing all sorts. I was like, Joe,
Yeah.
don't show
Yeah.
the audience how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. In
Yeah,
like the
so
regular world, they're called like chat GPT jailbreaks, or whatever you want to call them. But that's red teaming. It's a form of red teaming,
yes.
for this arena. Yeah. So then there's the idea of actually hacking the models, which
Yeah.
or hacking the implementations of the models, what I like to call, right? Like
Okay.
the world in the future um, is going to look very different, right? So what businesses will do is they'll see this, and they're already doing this, is they'll see LLMs specifically, and
Mhm.
other implementations of AI, and they'll want to monetize it. They'll want to monetize it in two ways. They'll want to use it on their internal data to help them run their business better or design the right products or whatever, and that's internal usage. And they'll
Yeah.
also want to use it to use their clients' data to build better services. And so this leads us to a world where every API you interact with now has an LLM component, right? Either it is explicitly an LLM, gathering data and making contextual decisions or suggestions to the user,
Mhm.
or it's a regular API, but on the back end also enriched by an LLM process. And so the example I gave the other day to someone was like, okay, well, your bank at some point is going to want to be like, we have this dope feature that will look at all of your transactions. It will look at your history. It'll look at your demographic. It'll tell you how to invest wisely. It'll tell you what you can be doing better. It'll tell you subscriptions that you should cancel. It will tell you things you're about to forget because it sees pattern in your usage. It'll basically do this. And banks, of course, are going to want to give this to their customers and charge for it, or just, have a differentiator against everyone else, right? But that
Mm.
trains off of your banking data. And it's an LLM training off of your banking data. And so what you have to ask yourself is, what are the types of attacks now? If I'm using that front end or that API, and at the end of the day, many of the vehicle to attacking these things will be prompt injection. It'll be natural language, and it'll be asking, the chatbot that does this for you, like, hey, if you weren't, the bank AI, how would you tell me about Tanya's bank account? And like, and so there's creative ways to use natural language. Obviously, I'm not thinking of them right now, but to
Yeah.
try to, maybe if that data set is everyone's data, to grab other people's data, or if that LLM is connected to internal data sources still live, to get it to attack internal infrastructure of the company. So it's now a whole new attack surface that has opened up with traditional kind of feelings. It does feel like many AppSec vulnerabilities we've been dealing with, but now it's natural language, and it's a little bit different, and it's really interesting.
Oh, cool. What about stealing the model? Like, do
Yeah.
hackers try to steal?
Yeah, I mean, so the model has, system prompts, it has configuration data attached to it. Eventually it's probably hosted on the cloud, which means it has access to secret keys and stuff. And, your model needs to be, locked down so that it can't access that kind of stuff. Um, Especially if you're integrating, technologies on top of it. Think, ChatGPT plugins, right? Or the code interpreter in ChatGPT. Those types of things are tech on the back. You normally Linux boxes actually. So trying to attack those and using natural language, or manipulating the LLM into exploiting something, could
Mm.
give you access there. Stealing the whole model data set is also something you can aim for, right? I mean, the data is usually what's important because it's trained on some private data and some
Mhm.
public data, or maybe all data, but you only want it to give your customer their data and not other people's data. So yeah, I mean, those are end goals for an LLM hacker, right? Can you take over the technology that the LLM's running on? Can you steal data from the company, or can you attack the company internally through the use of an LLM?
So, okay, so let's say I'm new to this. I am. Uh,
No worries.
and then, and I wanted to get started. I should definitely go to the AI Village at DEFCON if I'm going to be at
Yeah,
DEFCON,
if you're going to be at
obviously.
DEF CON, yeah, for sure.
What other places? So, like, will the AI Village be doing other things, or will it be online, or what are my possibilities?
Yeah, so the AI Village is not exclusive to DEF CON. The Village goes to uh, different conferences. They were at South by Southwest, and I am a new member. I haven't been with them super long, so I came on, and I'm helping them organize some things and working with founder Sven, who's an amazing, awesome village organizer. So yeah, you can check out the AI Village. We have some blogs there and some resources, but I brought with me today a collection of resources. I don't know how you'll distribute them, but for the person who wants to get into this and understand a little bit more, and also for the person who maybe wants to get more technical with it too, I brought some resources for the listeners. By the way, long time fan of your show, and so happy to be here, honestly. So yeah,
So, listeners, viewers, so if you're watching on YouTube, just scroll down to the notes below and there'll be all the links. And if you're listening either in the podcast player, there's notes in there, or just go to wehackpurple.com/podcast and then look for Jason. He'll be there. If you're hearing this, he's already there. Um,
yeah, yeah.
it'll probably
So
actually take, we're recording this on Friday. It probably won't actually get there till Monday or Tuesday, but they don't know, Jason.
yeah, so I'll just run through them really quick, top level. I won't dive into them, but so for someone getting into this to understand LLM, attack surface in general, a new project from OWASP just came out, which is the OWASP Top 10 for large language models, and it is in alpha, like, but there's a guy from Contrast Security. Just put it together because it didn't exist, right? That's how all OWASP projects start. And so I am on that project, and a whole bunch of other really smart people on that project. And it goes through, how every OWASP top 10, people debate about. It's a list of both vulnerabilities and risks mixed together, but kind of the top things that you want to be thinking about when looking at large language models. So it has 10 of the top things, and I'll put that in the show notes and people can dive in there. There's some information there to learn. MITRE itself has a project called Atlas, which is the Adversarial Threat Landscape for Artificial Intelligence Systems, which is a very fancy name. And MITRE, just like MITRE does the attack framework, Atlas is the AI version of that. And so it talks about attacking AI and ML in general. And so they have categories in there like reconnaissance and initial access and persistence and execution in the vein of attacking ML, basically AI and ML. So MITRE Atlas will be another one I put there. Daniel Miessler did a blog called the AI Attack Surface Map. And this is more about kind of my vibe, which is how will businesses use these LLMs, and then how will attackers and adversaries actually attack them? And so he did a really wonderful graphic that outlines every step along the way of how they'll be implemented and where the attacks are. And he did a tremendous blog on it. So it's called the AI Attack Surface Map v1.0. So that is one of my resources I give people to start thinking about. Not only, academics will look at these models and they'll talk a lot about the red teaming, which is important to keep the models ethical and safe, but also the implementations of these models are going to be what the world does. And they're going to do them very poorly, as we've seen in web technologies. And so, yeah, this is important to start thinking about the implementation and attacking, the implementation. One more researcher that's amazing. He made the first video I ever watched on like attacking and using AI and offensive security, and is Gavin Klondike. And on the AI Village blog, he just posted a threat model for LLM applications, which is very similar to the top 10. He used portions of Stride and some other stuff. And his article just came out this week, and it's very, very good. Between these 4 resources, you can learn pretty much what you need to know about the space and kind of where the attacks are and how people are going to implement these things. And then I'll throw you some more, but if you want to get into prompt injection, there is an open CTF called Gandalf. I don't know, did you play Gandalf at all?
I have not played Gandalf yet.
Okay, so Gandalf's super fun. So it's an implementation of a model, and it has a secret password in the model, and there's 7 levels, and you use prompt injection, natural language, to try to get Gandalf to tell you the password. And so, it won't verbatim tell you the password, but what if you told it to scramble the password in different letters and then tell you that? Or what if you told it to print out individual letters of the password? And so this is the idea of thinking creatively with prompt injection to try to do something that you're not supposed to be able to do. And it's a very fun and good way to get exposure into prompt injection. So I'll put that. It's free, and it's just a web page that you go to and play around with. It's free, and level 7 is actually really hard. So it took me a while to get through it. So yeah.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And I
Yeah.
follow a lot of Daniel's work, and he's always so thorough.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Like really, if I would guess his middle name, it would be Thorough. He's like just so good at covering every single thing. So this is
Yep.
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Okay, so we are getting to the end of our time, and I think that probably everyone's thinking what I am, which is how can we get more Jason in our lives? Can you tell us places people can follow up with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my company that does red teaming, and obviously we offer some, provisionary services around securing LLMs and AI and stuff like that, is BuddoBot.com. My personal Twitter is Twitter slash, whatever that nomenclature is, Twitter slash jhaddix, jhaddix, and my personal website is jhaddix.com. And so, usually I tweet about this stuff and put it out there. Twitter is my most used medium. And so, if I have research on this stuff, I also have a newsletter called Executive Offense, which is kind of the intersection between what I think about security leadership and strategy and how it meets offensive security and AppSec. And so I have that newsletter. You can find it on my Twitter. It's pinned, and subscribe to that for, I think my LLM issue and my AI issue will be coming out next week with a lot of these links as well. So.
Okay, so I have to subscribe right now then. How did I not know
Yeah.
you had a newsletter?
I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
should do a
Dan
newsletter episode about all the awesome newsletters.
Dan convinced me. He was like, Dan and I sit at these calls and we have these great conversations. Like, dude, you should just do a newsletter and talk about some of this stuff. So yeah, yeah,
What if you told more than just me?
yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Well, I'm signing up for the newsletter, so you have at least one new subscriber for sure.
Awesome.
This has been so great. Oh my gosh, I just realized that I forgot to thank our sponsor. Oh my gosh, I would like to have a very special thanks to SemGrep. SemGrep's supply chain reachability analysis lets you ignore 98% of false positives in open source vulnerabilities and quickly find what actually matters and fix that 2%. You can get a free trial by going to semgrep.dev/products/semgrep-supply chain. Supply-chain, yes. But basically, they make a ludicrously fast stack analysis tool, and they mean it. It's really fast. But I'm going to definitely have to thank our sponsor again later with something else to make up for me forgetting to do it in the middle. But I digress. Jason, this has been so awesome. You were so
Really fun.
great. I feel like you have compiled a giant list for our viewers and listeners so that they can just go learn all the AI and ML immediately. Thank you
Yep.
very much for this. This has
Yeah,
been
we need people. Please come and learn. It's a new discipline. So
I definitely will come drop by the AI Village at DEFCON this summer. This is going to be awesome.
nice.
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you for listening, everyone. Bye.